Imagine a world that does not end where the thin blue veil of the atmosphere fades, but instead extends 100,000 miles into the freezing star-swept dark of the void. This cosmic structure is a colossal teardrop-shaped shield of pure energy that silently parts a relentless solar wind moving at over 1,000,000 miles per hour. It is a masterpiece of absolute rhythmic balance, born from the churning iron heart of the planet and vibrating with a silent hum that protects every living thing from the raw, unmitigated fury of the sun. Picture the gas giants of the furthest outer reaches, where magnetic kingdoms are so vast they could easily swallow the sun and still have room for 1,000 Earths to drift within their boundaries. These massive bubbles of force act as celestial gyroscopes, spinning in the twilight of the solar system with a power that defies human comprehension. They are the great guardians of the deep, echoing a deep resonance that vibrates through the very fabric of space itself. This cosmic structure is not merely a local defense, but part of a grander, unseen architecture that spans the entire breadth of the universe. Surprisingly, the seemingly empty vacuum between galaxies is threaded securely with an intricate network of magnetic field lines, creating connections that bridge the staggering gaps of light years. These intergalactic filaments form a skeletal framework for the cosmos, ensuring that no star or galaxy is ever truly adrift in total isolation. If we were to look closer at the void, we would find a silent symphony of light and power, weaving the stars together into a single, unified tapestry of celestial protection. This magnetic web is the hidden anatomy of the universe, a silent scaffolding upon which the visible world of burning suns and swirling gas is meticulously draped. It is a profound and ancient connection, a reminder that the darkness between the worlds is filled with the breath of the stars. Deep within the heavy, comforting stillness of this quiet room, the grand and terrifying scale of the heavens begins to feel intimate and incredibly soft against your skin. You're safe here, resting at the very bottom of an invisible ocean of energy that has stood its ground with unwavering loyalty for over 4 billion years. These wonders are yours to inherit as you sleep, a gift of ancient, elegant physics that ensures your dreams remain as steady and secure as the turning of the planet itself. The story begins at the fragile boundary where the air becomes thin and the true guard begins its eternal, silent work for the biosphere below. Allow your awareness to settle into the supportive warmth of the present moment as the first layers of the shield are revealed to your resting mind. Our world does not end where the atmosphere fades into the dark. Our world does not end where the atmosphere fades into the dark. Earth is enveloped by a colossal teardrop-shaped magnetic bubble that silently parts the relentless solar wind. This majestic shield, born from the churning iron heart of the planet, resonates with the gentle, silent hum of unseen energy, deflecting a cosmic storm hundreds of thousands of miles into the void. Picture a cosmic stone resting in a rapid, glowing river. The stellar breeze rushing outward from our sun at millions of miles per hour strikes this invisible barrier and is forced to flow cleanly around us. This deflection happens in utter silence, an elegant choreography of physics playing out far above our fragile blue skies. If we could somehow see this magnetic ocean, the night sky would be dominated by glowing arcs of force. We would witness a constant dynamic tension as the sun's fury presses against our protective shell. Instead, we remain safely unaware on the surface, moving through the cosmos inside a tranquil sanctuary that ensures the fiery storms of space never touch the ground we walk upon. Deep within this cosmic structure, invisible magnetic field lines constantly stretch and snap like massive rubber bands. These lines of force emerge from the planetary poles, arching thousands of miles through the freezing vacuum before diving back down into the opposite hemisphere. They form a cage of energy that is never truly still, but rather vibrates with a deep resonant tension. As the chaotic solar wind pushes against the day side of our world, these lines are violently compressed. On the night side, they are dragged outward into an elongated tail, stretched to their absolute breaking point by the passing stellar tempest. Eventually, the immense pressure becomes too much to bear, and the magnetic bands violently snap. This snapping and reconnecting releases staggering amounts of pent-up energy, equal to thousands of atomic detonations, yet it produces no sound. The recoiling lines fling trapped plasma earthward, fueling brilliant magnetic storms in the upper atmosphere. Through it all, the gentle, silent hum of unseen energy deflecting a cosmic storm echoes across the void, a testament to the immense hidden forces wrestling in the dark above us. The boundary where the solar wind first hits our magnetic shield is known as the bow shock, forming exactly like the wave ahead of a ship in water. At this violent frontier, the supersonic plasma rushing from the sun is abruptly forced to slow down and heat up. It creates a turbulent, invisible wall of shock waves that acts as the very first line of defense for our planetary home. Imagine standing at the bow of an enormous vessel, watching the ocean churn and crash against the hull. The bow shock operates on the exact same principle, but on an unimaginably vast scale, parting a raging river of stellar radiation. The particles that hit this wall are thrown into sudden chaos, deflected sideways in a desperate scramble to find a path around the immovable object in their way. Surprisingly, this cosmic collision happens with the gentle, silent hum of unseen energy deflecting a cosmic storm, leaving no physical trace in the empty space it occupies. It is a perpetual invisible tsunami breaking against an invisible shore. This eternal standoff ensures the most destructive elements of the solar wind are safely diverted, allowing the delicate machinery of our magnetosphere to operate in absolute peace. Beyond our immediate atmosphere, the magnetosphere creates a safe harbour where life can flourish without being stripped away by stellar radiation. This sprawling magnetic cocoon blocks the vast majority of high-energy cosmic rays and solar particles that constantly bombard our sector of space. Without this invisible barrier, the intricate DNA of every living organism would be subjected to a relentless, sterilizing rain of destruction. Consider the barren, irradiated surfaces of other worlds in our solar system that lack such a robust planetary defense. They stand as silent, grim warnings of what happens to a globe completely exposed to the unforgiving glare of the cosmos. Our magnetic bubble acts as a faithful guardian, absorbing and deflecting the lethal blows that would otherwise scour the continents clean of green forests and deep oceans. Interestingly, this magnetic shield is not a rigid wall, but a flexible, breathing membrane that compresses and expands when the sun is active. When the stellar wind blows gently, our protective bubble puffs out, stretching far into the interplanetary void in a state of relaxed equilibrium. It creates a calm, expansive domain where the gentle, silent hum of unseen energy deflecting a cosmic storm resonates at a slow, peaceful frequency. As the stellar tempest slowly passes, the magnetic membrane gradually rebounds, expanding back into space with a deep, unheard exhalation. This rhythmic breathing connects our planet directly to the fiery moods of our parent star. It is a majestic, invisible dance of give and take, ensuring the planetary shield bends deeply without ever shattering under the immense cosmic strain. Trapped inside this undulating architecture are the Van Allen radiation belts, glowing domains of charged particles that dance to the rhythm of Earth's magnetic heartbeat. These two massive donut-shaped rings of intense radiation encircle the equator, filled to the brim with high-speed electrons and protons. They form a hazardous inner sanctuary, acting as a fiery moat that captures and holds the solar wind's most energetic debris. Notice how these particles do not simply float, but spiral rapidly back and forth along the invisible magnetic field lines. They bounce between the northern and southern hemispheres in a matter of seconds, trapped in a perpetual hypnotic loop of motion. The belts swell and shrink dramatically in response to solar activity, constantly filling with fresh plasma and then draining softly into the upper atmosphere. To travel through these rings is to navigate one of the most treacherous regions of near-Earth space, requiring heavy shielding for any spacecraft passing through. Yet, from a distance, they operate with the gentle, silent hum of unseen energy deflecting a cosmic storm, safely containing the volatile plasma within a specific boundary. They are beautiful, invisible crowns of fire worn by our planet, testament to the immense holding power of our magnetic core. Without this invisible armour, our oceans would have slowly boiled away into the vacuum of space millions of years ago. The relentless pressure of the solar wind acts like a sandblaster on an atomic scale, perfectly capable of tearing away water molecules and stripping a planet of its life-giving atmosphere. We need only look at neighbouring worlds to see the dry, dusty fate of terrestrial planets that lost their magnetic shielding in the distant past. If our magnetosphere were to vanish completely today, the sun's harsh ultraviolet light would begin breaking down our atmospheric water vapour into raw hydrogen and oxygen. The stellar breeze would then easily sweep these vital elements away into the dark, draining the magnificent seas drop by drop over the eons. The lush blue marble we call home would steadily transform into an arid, rust-coloured wasteland, devoid of its swirling clouds and deep oceanic trenches. Fortunately, the gentle, silent hum of unseen energy deflecting a cosmic storm stands fast, ensuring our oceans do not share this desolate fate. It gracefully repels the solar sandblaster, holding tightly to the delicate envelope of gases that cradle our entire biosphere. Every crashing ocean wave and gentle rainstorm is a direct result of this ongoing, invisible protection holding the line in open space. Deep within this elongated shadow, the magnetic field lines are pulled taut, organising themselves into complex parallel lobes of opposite electrical polarity. Between these lobes lies a thin sheet of dense plasma, constantly churning and undulating in the dark as the solar wind rushes past. As the moon traces its monthly orbit around the Earth, it regularly glides through this massive invisible tail, bathing briefly in a quiet shower of trapped terrestrial particles. This tail is not static. It thrashes and sways elegantly like a kite string caught in a powerful shifting gale. The gentle, silent hum of unseen energy deflecting a cosmic storm is concentrated here, funneling the diverted solar wind far out into the outer solar system. It is a stunning, ghostly appendage that dwarfs the planet itself, remaining forever hidden from human eyes yet mathematically perfect in its design. During a quiet solar day, the magnetosphere hums with ultra-low frequency waves, acting as a literal symphony of space physics. These broad waves are born from the gentle friction between the steady solar wind and the outer boundary of our magnetic shield. They ripple endlessly through the plasma trapped around our world, carrying unseen energy across thousands of miles, like deep acoustic vibrations passing through a vast ocean. If we were to translate these electromagnetic fluctuations into audio frequencies, the result would be a bizarre, haunting chorus of whistles, hisses, and rhythmic drumming. Scientists call these phenomena chorus waves and continuous pulsations, and they form the permanent background soundtrack of the near-Earth environment. This music swells into an aggressive roar during a solar storm, but on a calm day, it settles into a soothing, incredibly hypnotic rhythm. The symphony plays out entirely in the absolute vacuum of space, meaning the gentle, silent hum of unseen energy deflecting a cosmic storm is quite literally a song composed of magnetic resonance. It is a beautiful reminder that the void is not empty or dead, but intensely alive with harmonic vibrations. Our planet sings quietly to itself as it hurtles through the galaxy, wrapped securely in its own musical sphere. Exploring this invisible ocean requires satellites equipped with sensitive magnetometers acting as compasses in the cosmic void. Because we cannot natively see, touch, or hear the magnetosphere directly, we must rely on highly specialized instruments to chart its shifting spatial currents. These robotic sentinels orbit gracefully through the radiation belts and the magnetotail, mapping the unseen topography by feeling the delicate pull of the magnetic forces around them. Picture a fleet of tiny metallic ships sailing entirely by the guidance of an invisible tide, sending streams of critical data back to scientists on the ground. They track the sudden compressions, the violent reconnections, and the gentle, silent hum of unseen energy, deflecting a cosmic storm that defines this unique environment. Through their mechanical senses, we have slowly uncovered the breathtaking teardrop-shaped reality of our planetary shield over the last several decades. To fully appreciate the breathtaking teardrop-shaped reality of our planetary shield, we must turn our gaze outward toward the very source of its perpetual struggle. A constant, unyielding stream of charged particles flows endlessly from the superheated corona of our local star, bathing the entire solar system in a profound plasma breeze. This is not a wind made of swirling gases like those we feel on Earth, but a fundamentally different state of matter composed entirely of disembodied electrons and protons. Picture a warm, luminous breeze sweeping across an endless, frictionless glass sphere. The sun exhales this radiant energy in a continuous, omnidirectional expansion, sending an invisible tide racing outward through the vast, seemingly empty gulfs between the planets. It sweeps over every asteroid, every frozen comet, and every wandering moon, ensuring that nothing in our stellar neighbourhood is ever truly untouched by the sun's reach. This outward rushing tide forms the foundational weather system of our local cosmos, dictating the complex electromagnetic environment for staggering distances in every direction. It carries the sun's own magnetic influence deep into the interstellar void, carving out a massive, billowing bubble that encapsulates our entire celestial family. The steady, relentless pressure of this celestial current sets the grand stage for the most graceful and vital planetary defense mechanisms known to exist. When this rushing stellar wind finally meets the outer boundaries of Earth's unseen defenses, the resulting encounter is an absolute masterclass in fluid dynamics. The incoming charged particles, though travelling at staggering supersonic speeds, are elegantly diverted, sliding seamlessly around us like a gentle stream of water slipping over a perfectly smooth submerged riverstone. Rather than a catastrophic or violent collision, the meeting is resolved through an elegant choreography of pure physics. The sheer grace of this massive deflection evokes the profound sensation of a warm, luminous breeze sweeping across an endless, frictionless glass sphere. The highly energized protons and electrons are caught by the curved, sweeping architecture of our magnetic field and are immediately routed laterally, bypassing our fragile atmosphere completely. They glide along the vast exterior of our planetary bubble, continuing their outward journey without ever making physical contact with the dense air we breathe. This elegant diversion ensures that the immense kinetic fury of our star is effortlessly transformed into a serene, sweeping detour around our world. The particles race along the elongated flanks of the magnetosphere, plunging further into the outer darkness while leaving the quiet sanctuary below completely undisturbed. It is a perpetual, frictionless glide that perfectly and silently insulates the surface from the relentless, abrasive scouring of the solar storm. Sometimes, this cosmic interaction is not merely a smooth deflection, but rather a delicate, resonant exchange of energy across the void. A sudden, gentle gust of enhanced solar wind occasionally plucks directly at the outermost lines of our magnetic field, causing them to vibrate like taut, invisible strings on a massive cosmic harp. These subtle, sweeping fluctuations send deep, undulating ripples travelling inward through the layered architecture of our protective shield. As you rest your head and allow the muscles in your jaw to unclench, feel the steady, reassuring rhythm of your own pulse mirroring these ancient cosmic vibrations. The shifting density and speed of the stellar breeze precisely dictate the tempo of this silent music, plucking a melody of pure physical force across the vacuum of space. Each microscopic fluctuation in the wind's pressure creates a corresponding harmonic shudder in the unseen envelope of our home. This continuous plucking generates sweeping, ultra-low frequency waves that cascade down through the invisible plasma surrounding our world, transferring energy without breaking the shield itself. The field simply rings like a softly struck bell in the absolute silence of high orbit. It is a stunning display of deep interconnectedness, where a gentle breeze borne vast distances away physically strums the outer edges of our protective atmosphere. Through a profoundly delicate and complex process known as magnetic reconnection, the rigid, repelling boundaries of this standoff are occasionally breached in a highly organised manner. The sun's own magnetic field, carried outward on the back of the solar wind, occasionally aligns perfectly with our planetary field, merging seamlessly to open temporary doors in our shield. This is not a violent shattering of the barrier, but a mathematical fusing of two distinct magnetic topologies. When the orientation of these fields is absolutely optimal, the outward-facing lines of our defence link directly, end to end, with the incoming lines of the solar gale. This elegant merging process effectively unzips the day side of our protective bubble, creating transient invisible archways that connect the Earth's local environment directly to the Sun's expanding atmosphere. For a mesmerising window of time, the absolute separation between star and planet is dissolved into a shared, unified magnetic gateway. These temporary doorways open and close with a fluid, silent grace, regulated purely by the shifting, twisting magnetic polarity of the incoming stellar breeze. They represent a fundamental, necessary mechanism of energy transfer, allowing the otherwise impermeable barrier to breathe and interact gently with its surrounding cosmic environment. Through these fleeting portals, the local space around our world briefly and peacefully becomes united with the deep solar wind. Once these temporary invisible doors are cast wide open across the dayside boundary, a highly selective and beautiful migration begins across the cosmic threshold. These newly formed archways allow a fraction of the rushing solar particles to slip quietly inside our defences, creating a serene, slow-motion river of energy high above our heads. Cut off from the violent, supersonic rush outside, this captured plasma gently drifts into the upper layers of our magnetic sanctuary. Picture once more that warm, luminous breeze sweeping across an endless, frictionless glass sphere. But now imagine a tiny glowing current softly swirling directly into the sphere's hollow interior. The incoming protons and electrons immediately lose their aggressive outward momentum, settling into a tranquil, curving flow guided exclusively by the Earth's internal magnetic architecture. They become captive, luminescent guests within our planetary system, floating peacefully in the near-Earth vacuum. This serene river of captured starlight slowly fills the upper latitudes of the magnetosphere with a soft, invisible reservoir of suspended power. The particles mingle seamlessly with the thin, native plasma of our world, creating a blended, slow-moving tide that orbits gracefully in the permanent dark. It is a gentle, deeply quiet infiltration that brings a tamed, harmless fragment of the sun's raw energy directly into our planetary embrace. Surprisingly, despite the immense power and far-reaching influence of this stellar breeze, its actual physical substance is incredibly tenuous and impossibly fragile. The solar wind is drastically thinner than the best, most perfectly engineered laboratory vacuums ever created down here on the surface of the Earth. If you were to somehow capture a massive cubic volume of this rushing wind, you would find only a handful of solitary atoms scattered widely within it. Allow the heaviness in your shoulders to melt away completely as you contemplate the profound, near-perfect emptiness of this sweeping cosmic river. The immense sculpting force of the solar wind comes not from its physical density, but entirely from its staggering velocity and the vast, sweeping volume of space it relentlessly occupies. It is a phantom current, composed of almost nothing at all, yet uniquely capable of sculpting the magnetic environments of giant distant planets. This extreme rarity dictates that the particles within the wind almost never actually collide with each other as they race outward through the dark. They fly onward in lonely, perfectly isolated trajectories, bound together only by the shared guiding influence of the sweeping interplanetary magnetic fields. It is a beautiful, paradoxical force of nature, a gale of profound emptiness that acts as the heaviest, most persistent sculptor in our entire solar system. As the captured, newly introduced particles slowly navigate the vast interior of our magnetic bubble, they are inevitably and gently drawn toward the planetary poles. Guided perfectly by the curving, invisible field lines, they begin a graceful, silent descent into the narrowing magnetic funnels of our extreme northern and southern latitudes. The unseen architecture acts as a massive sweeping slide, effortlessly and seamlessly directing this slow-motion river of energy downward toward the atmosphere. In this long, continuously spiraling descent, the particles follow the ultimate paths of least resistance, sinking deeper and deeper into the strengthening magnetic embrace of the planet. It is an unhurried, mathematically precise migration, completely free from any chaotic turbulence or sudden jarring disruptions in their flight. They glide downward as if riding a warm, luminous breeze sweeping across an endless, frictionless glass sphere. Their trajectory is dictated entirely by the pure geometry of the field. This natural funneling effect gently gathers the scattered, drifting plasma and concentrates it into highly organized, continuously sinking columns of invisible power. Long before they finally reach the thicker, protective layers of the upper atmosphere, these particles fall through immense, breathtaking expanses of utter silence and extreme cold. It is a majestic, profoundly peaceful settling of cosmic dust, quietly finding its deliberate way to the absolute magnetic apexes of our world. This quiet, intricate interaction between our volatile, life-giving star and our sheltering planet is not a recent phenomenon, but a deeply ancient foundational rhythm. This seamless dance of continuous deflection, occasional reconnection, and gentle capture has been occurring continuously, without a solitary moment's pause, for billions of years. It is a profound planetary legacy of survival, significantly older than the continents, older than the oceans, and far older than biology itself. Let your breathing slow naturally, perfectly syncing with the steady, unfathomable persistence of this ancient, invisible cosmic heartbeat playing out above you. Long before the very earliest single-celled organisms ever stirred in the dark primordial seas, the solar wind was already rushing endlessly against this invisible, frictionless barrier. The magnetosphere has faithfully stood its ground through the violent, highly tumultuous youth of our solar system, providing an unbroken continuum of silent, steadfast protection. Every single day, the exact same fluid dynamics and magnetic merging play out in the deep silence above, entirely unchanged by the passage of vast geological eras. The Earth's churning iron core has tirelessly maintained this sweeping defense mechanism, spinning endlessly to power the shield against an eternally raging star. It is a deeply comforting, grounding realization that this protective embrace is a profoundly stable, permanent feature of our celestial home. Modern spacecraft that are deliberately sent to surf this violent, ever-shifting boundary experience a surprisingly tranquil and uneventful journey through the collision zone. Because the sweeping plasma is so incredibly thin, these metallic explorers feel absolutely no physical friction, drag, or turbulent wind against their delicate hulls. The most dramatic, high-energy weatherfront in our celestial neighbourhood is completely undetectable to the raw human senses, passing by like a perfect, absolutely silent ghost. Instead of violent buffeting, these highly sensitive instruments register only the subtle, sweeping shift of ambient electromagnetic forces gently nudging their internal sensors. They glide smoothly and effortlessly through the boundary region and the temporary magnetic doorways, operating as if suspended in a perfectly calm, entirely undisturbed void. The sensation perfectly mimics a warm, luminous breeze sweeping across an endless, frictionless glass sphere, where physical resistance simply does not exist. As you sink deeper into the comfort of your resting place, consider the profound stillness these human-made emissaries experience in the harshest environment imaginable. They sail purely on mathematics, measuring the invisible pressures and quiet magnetic realignments that dictate the overarching shape of our world. This beautifully frictionless surfing allows us to quietly map the most violent boundary in our sky with absolute, completely undisturbed precision and grace. Ultimately, the constant, unrelenting outward pressure of this stellar breath entirely governs the overall macro-level geometry of our local planetary domain. It is exactly this perpetual physical pushing from the sun that keeps our vast magnetic tail permanently stretching and streaming away into the outer freezing darkness. Without the endless solar wind, our magnetic field would naturally rebound and collapse into a simple symmetrical bubble, completely losing its magnificent swept-back architectural grandeur. The wind acts as a continuous sweeping cosmic current, constantly smoothing the day side of our shield while relentlessly dragging the night side into a profound, elongated shadow of magnetic force. This dynamic, ongoing equilibrium creates a permanent spatial windsock, a structure forever pointing directly away from the intense solar glare and deep into the interstellar void. The grand architecture of our home is thus inextricably co-authored by the star we orbit, sculpted continuously by the breath of the sun itself. As you drift toward a place of absolute calm, know that the very shape of our sky is held securely in a perfect eternal balance of opposing forces. The sun pushes outward, the Earth's deep core pushes back, and the resulting elegant harmony forms a majestic, sweeping barrier suspended in the vacuum. It is a grand, perfectly silent masterpiece of cosmic physics, carved forever by the gentle, unyielding caress of the solar wind. This gentle, unyielding caress of the solar wind eventually finds its way down into the highest, thinnest layers of our atmosphere. Guided by the funneling magnetic forces at the poles, the descending cosmic plasma finally meets the native gases of our world in a profoundly beautiful collision. It is here that the invisible energy of the solar storm is miraculously transformed into visible light, birthing the mesmerizing displays known as the Northern and Southern Lights. Picture the soft, rhythmic pulsing of emerald and ruby lights in a cold winter sky, born entirely from the kinetic impact of subatomic particles. When the speeding electrons strike the calm, floating atoms of the upper air, they transfer a tiny burst of energy, briefly exciting the atmospheric gases. To return to their natural resting state, these atoms must release that absorbed energy, doing so by emitting a brilliant photon of light in the dark. This continuous microscopic exchange of energy creates a massive, sweeping tapestry of illumination across the roof of the world. Countless tiny flashes occur every passing moment, blending perfectly into a smooth, flowing curtain of ethereal fire. The resulting celestial performance is the most magnificent visible evidence of the massive magnetic architecture actively shielding our home. Deep within this glowing atmospheric theatre, solitary oxygen atoms are the primary artists responsible for the most iconic, sweeping colours. When excited by the steady rain of cosmic particles, these specific atoms are notoriously slow to release their absorbed energy. They hold on to the stellar warmth for a precious few moments before finally letting go, painting the night with the soft, rhythmic pulsing of emerald and ruby lights in a cold winter sky. At the very highest altitudes, where the air is unimaginably thin, these excited oxygen atoms encounter almost no interference from other drifting molecules. Here, they have the time and endless space to emit a deep, haunting crimson glow that drapes softly across the absolute highest reaches of the atmosphere. It is a slow, majestic blooming of red light that hovers on the very fragile edge of open space. Allow your breathing to deepen and match the slow, patient rhythm of these high-altitude oxygen atoms, taking their unhurried time to shine. Lower down, where the atmospheric density increases slightly, the oxygen atoms are bumped more frequently, forcing them to emit their stored energy faster. This quicker release produces the brilliant sweeping waves of emerald green that we most commonly associate with the auroral symphony. Nitrogen molecules, far heavier and more complex than solitary oxygen, add their own delicate and rapid brushstrokes to the vast cosmic canvas. Unlike oxygen, nitrogen reacts almost instantaneously to the plunging solar particles, flashing its trapped energy back into the void without a moment of hesitation. This rapid response introduces entirely different hues to the performance, painting the lowest fringes of the glowing ribbons in delicate shades of blue and deep purple. These azure and violet borders form a crisp, beautiful contrast against the sweeping emerald curtains, giving the lights a profound sense of depth and structural majesty. The nitrogen glow often appears as a fast-moving, playful fringe that dances quickly along the bottom edge of the massive auroral folds. It is a stunning chemical reaction playing out on a planetary scale, separating vivid colours purely by atmospheric composition and dropping altitude. During particularly energetic stellar storms, the nitrogen molecules can be driven into such an excited state that they flood the lower atmosphere with a brilliant magenta wash. This rich, vibrant colouring requires immense energy to produce, making it a rare and deeply treasured sight for those standing quietly in the snow. The resulting mixture of atomic light perfectly mirrors the soft, rhythmic pulsing of emerald and ruby lights in a cold winter sky. Looking back at our home from the profound silence of deep space, the auroras do not appear as localised, fleeting ribbons of isolated light. Instead, they form permanent, incredibly vast and glowing halos that perfectly crown both the northern and southern poles of the globe. These unbroken rings of fire are a constant defining feature of our planet, endlessly circling the magnetic axis in the permanent twilight. These immense auroral ovals are never truly extinguished, but merely ebb and flow in their brightness, forever married to the shifting moods of the stellar breeze. Even during the quietest periods of solar activity, a faint, ghostly ring of energy continues to burn softly at the top and bottom of the world. It is a celestial halo woven entirely out of deflected plasma, marking the precise regions where the magnetic funnels meet the protective air. To an observer floating softly in the outer darkness, these paired crowns would continuously pulse and shimmer with the soft, rhythmic pulsing of emerald and ruby lights in a cold winter sky. They serve as glowing, visible proof that our world is actively engaged in a constant dynamic relationship with its parent star. The sheer scale of these permanent rings makes all human-made illumination on the night side look incredibly fragile and beautifully small. The breathtaking movements of these lights are not simply random drifting caused by high-altitude winds or shifting planetary temperatures. Instead, the auroras move in a silent, rippling dance that perfectly and instantaneously mirrors the unseen turbulence of the magnetic storms raging vast distances above. Every fold, every surge, and every sudden shimmering wave is a direct visual translation of invisible plasma shifting heavily in the void. Feel the weight of your body sinking securely into your resting place, perfectly grounded while you visualize this massive, weightless choreography unfolding in the sky. When the outer boundary of our protective shield is gently buffeted by a solar gust, the resulting magnetic wave travels down the field lines at staggering speeds. As this wave strikes the atmosphere, it forces the glowing curtains to ripple and curl in perfect synchronized harmony. We're essentially watching a profound, deep space weather system being projected directly onto the gaseous ceiling of our planet. The violent, unseen reconnections and plasma surges happening far out in the dark are rendered beautifully harmless, transformed gracefully into the soft, rhythmic pulsing of emerald and ruby lights in a cold winter sky. It is a mesmerizing cosmic shadow play, revealing the invisible fluid dynamics of the heavens in vibrant, shifting color. Far from being chaotic, The delicate, glowing ribbons of the aurora trace the exact mathematical pathways of the local magnetic field lines. As the plunging particles follow the spiraling paths of least resistance, their fiery collisions perfectly illuminate the geometric structure of our unseen shield. The lights essentially act as glowing iron filings scattered over a massive planetary magnet, revealing its hidden shape to anyone looking up. When you observe a distinct vertical ray of light shooting upward from an auroral band, you're literally looking at a solitary glowing tube of magnetic force. These towering pillars of light stand perfectly parallel to the local magnetic field, stretching immense distances straight up into the vacuum of space. They are the majestic architectural columns of our defensive shield, temporarily painted in luminous plasma for us to admire. This precise structural tracing means that the lights are incredibly organized, governed strictly by the uncompromising laws of universal electromagnetism. They sweep and fold along the exact contours of the field, guided by unseen forces far older and larger than the atmosphere itself. The resulting geometry is a masterclass in cosmic physics, culminating in the soft, rhythmic pulsing of emerald and ruby lights in a cold winter sky. For countless generations, native cultures living in the highest latitudes have watched these shifting lights with profound, quiet reverence. Long before the mechanics of solar plasma and magnetic fields were ever understood, people found deep spiritual peace in the slow, majestic undulations above their frozen landscapes. The lights were often seen as ancient ancestors dancing gracefully in the heavens, offering glowing comfort during the longest, darkest nights of the year. Allow your mind to clear completely, letting go of any lingering thoughts, just like those ancient observers standing peacefully beneath a perfect starry expanse. The gentle, unhurried pacing of the auroral flow teaches us to simply watch and breathe, completely surrendering to the vast, comforting scale of the cosmos. It is a permanent, natural cathedral of light, offering a sanctuary of quiet reflection for anyone willing to gaze upward. On incredibly rare occasions, when the local star unleashes a particularly massive and sustained wave of energy, the glowing ovals can expand dramatically outward. Pushed by the sheer force of a major geomagnetic storm, the auroral glow can gracefully drift far away from the poles, reaching toward the equator. During these historic events, the lights temporarily paint skies that have never seen snow, surprising observers in normally temperate zones. As the protective bubble surrounding our globe is heavily compressed, the magnetic funnels are forced wider, causing the glowing footprint to march steadily southward. Regions that normally only know the dark, quiet stillness of a regular night suddenly find themselves bathed in the soft, rhythmic pulsing of emerald and ruby lights in a cold winter sky. It is a stunning, highly unusual rearrangement of our planetary aesthetic. These massive equatorial expansions are entirely harmless to the surface, but they serve as a potent visible reminder of the sun's true, overwhelming reach. To see the sky burning a brilliant ghostly crimson over a warm ocean or a desert landscape is an unforgettable anomaly of wild nature. It proves beautifully that the entire globe is deeply connected to the sweeping invisible tides of our local stellar environment. Interestingly, this magnificent light show is not exclusively a creature of the night, forever banished by the rising of the sun. Even in the middle of the daytime, when completely hidden by the bright, blinding glare of our local star, the auroral fires continue to burn softly in the high atmosphere. The constant influx of solar particles does not ever stop for daylight, and the resulting chemical reactions in the thin air continue unabated. If we could somehow block out the overwhelming scattered blue light of the daytime sky, we would clearly see the auroras sweeping continuously overhead while the sun shines. Special instruments and ultraviolet cameras placed in high orbit routinely capture this daytime phenomenon, proving the magnetic ovals are fully continuous, unbroken rings. They are permanent, dancing fixtures of the upper air, existing just beyond the veil of our daylight perception. Knowing that these massive, silent curtains are continuously flowing above us, even when we cannot see them, adds a profound layer of depth to the clear blue sky. It means the soft, rhythmic pulsing of emerald and ruby lights in a cold winter sky is actually happening right now, somewhere in the upper atmosphere. The majestic dance is eternal, patiently waiting for the shadow of the spinning globe to reveal its glowing, intricate majesty once again. While the majestic visual display occurs vast distances above the surface, the phenomenon is not always entirely silent to the solitary observers on the ground. During particularly intense displays, watchers occasionally report hearing faint, mysterious crackling or hissing sounds echoing softly in the frozen, perfectly still air. For generations, these delicate acoustic whispers were dismissed as pure illusion, given that the impossibly thin atmosphere where the lights live cannot transmit sound downward. We now understand that these delicate noises are actually localized electromagnetic emissions, revealing the genuinely audible whispers of the magnetic field itself. When a massive pulse of auroral energy strikes the atmosphere, it can instantly alter the electrical charge of the cold, dense inversion layer of air resting just above the soil. This sudden, static discharge creates a real, physical snapping sound right at the observer's location, perfectly synchronized with the flashing lights above. Let your breathing become so quiet that you could hear a pin drop, tuning your resting senses to the absolute peaceful stillness of your own room. The universe is full of these incredibly subtle, hidden translations of energy, where unseen magnetic waves are miraculously converted into the soft, rhythmic pulsing of emerald and ruby lights in a cold winter sky, and occasionally a delicate whisper in the dark. It is the final, intimate caress of the stellar wind, finally speaking directly to us after its long, utterly silent journey. As that final, intimate caress of the stellar wind completes its long journey past the inner worlds, it encounters the true king of our celestial neighbourhood. Jupiter sits at the centre of a magnetic kingdom so colossal that its boundaries defy common terrestrial experience, creating a vast protected domain in the middle of the outer solar system. If this invisible structure were to suddenly glow with the same intensity as our own polar lights, it would dominate the night sky, appearing twice as large as the full moon from our vantage point. This colossal magnetic bubble is not a hollow vacuum, but is continuously pumped full of heavy, glowing volcanic plasma erupting from the tortured moon, Io. Thousands of pounds of sulfur and oxygen are stripped away from the moon's surface every single second, caught by the giant planet's relentless magnetic grip. These heavy ions do not escape into the outer darkness. Instead, they are trapped within the Jovian field, circling the gas giant in a thick, luminous torus of ionized gas. This ring of volcanic debris acts as the fuel for a celestial engine, a heavy, swirling mist of particles that vibrates with the power of the planet's interior. The ions spiral endlessly in their magnetic cage, creating a glowing donut of matter that can be seen by specialized telescopes as a ghost of sulfur and salt. It is a striking example of how a moon and a planet can become physically intertwined through the invisible medium of magnetism, sharing their substance in a slow, eternal rotation. Because Jupiter spins so rapidly, completing a full rotation in less than 10 terrestrial hours, its massive magnetic field acts like a gigantic, frictionless particle accelerator. The field lines are dragged through the surrounding space at significant fractions of the speed of light, whipping the trapped volcanic plasma into a frantic high-energy state. This creates the massive deep resonance vibrating from an impossibly large spinning top, a frequency that hums through the very fabric of the Jovian system, like a low, powerful chord on a cosmic organ. The centrifugal force is so immense that it stretches the magnetosphere into a flattened, disc-like shape, creating a magnetic environment unlike any other in our system. Surprisingly, this rapid motion does not lead to chaos, but to a highly ordered, predictable structure that functions with the precision of a masterfully crafted timepiece. This cosmic accelerator flings particles outward with such force that they can be detected billions of miles away, yet near the planet, everything remains locked in a steady rhythmic spin. The resulting radiation belts are millions of times more intense than those found around our own world, presenting a majestic yet deadly hazard to any visiting spacecraft. Within this domain, electrons are accelerated to such extreme energies that they can penetrate even the thickest lead shielding as if it were fragile paper. It is a region of raw, unbridled electromagnetic power, where the sheer density of charged particles creates a perpetual invisible glow of synchrotron radiation. Notice the gentle stillness of your own room and the steady weight of your limbs as you contemplate a world of such extreme, unseen kinetic energy. The radiation is so powerful that it can actually damage the atomic structure of solid materials, yet it is contained perfectly within the invisible lines of the Jovian shield. This environment is a testament to the power of the planet's rotation, a place where the laws of physics are pushed to their absolute limits in a display of silent, luminous intensity. Within this immense structure, vast unseen sheets of electric current flow, quietly carrying millions of amps through the dark expanse of the Jovian system. These currents connect the high, swirling atmosphere of the planet directly to its many orbiting moons, forming a complex web of electrical circuitry on a staggering cosmic scale. This invisible plumbing system moves immense amounts of energy, enough to power billions of terrestrial cities, yet it exists in absolute unbothered silence. If we were to look closer, we would see that these current sheets are the veins and arteries of the magnetosphere, transporting the vital energy required to sustain its massive, deep resonance. The current flows in great sweeping loops, moving through the plasma torus and back into the planet's polar regions. This circuit is never broken, a permanent flow of electrons that keeps the entire Jovian system electrically alive and connected across millions of miles of empty space. Jupiter's auroras are not only visually stunning but also steadily emit powerful X-rays, a silent testament to the immense energies at play. While typical lights are soft and predominantly visible, these Jovian displays pulse with high-energy radiation that would be blinding to any eye capable of perceiving the true spectrum of the universe. These X-ray bursts occur with a rhythmic precision, often pulsing at the planet's poles in a regular, haunting beat that suggests a planetary heart at work deep beneath the clouds. Surprisingly, the universe manages to translate the violent collision of particles into a steady, rhythmic pulse of high-energy light. These auroras are the most powerful in the solar system, releasing hundreds of times more energy than those found on smaller, rocky worlds. They serve as a constant glowing indicator of the state of the Jovian magnetosphere, flaring and fading in response to the shifting currents within the massive spinning top. The long invisible tail of Jupiter's magnetosphere stretches all the way to the orbit of Saturn, creating a ghostly bridge between the two giant planets. This magnetic tail, pushed outward by the relentless pressure of the solar wind, forms an elongated corridor of plasma that spans hundreds of millions of miles across the outer solar system. Occasionally, the planet Saturn actually passes through the wake of this Jovian tail, feeling the subtle magnetic influence of its neighbour from across the Great Divide. Feel the gentle rise and fall of your chest, a small and peaceful motion that stands in stark contrast to the massive, sweeping wake of this magnetic giant as it drifts through the outer dark. This structure is so large that it could hold 100 suns within its length, a vast and lonely highway of particles travelling through the vacuum. It is a reminder that the influence of a giant planet extends far beyond its visible clouds, reaching out to touch its neighbours in a silent magnetic embrace. Deep inside, the planet's swirling metallic hydrogen core generates the tremendous dynamo that sustains this entire magnetic empire. Under the crushing, unimaginable pressure of Jupiter's interior, hydrogen ceases to be a gas and begins to behave like a liquid metal, conducting electricity with perfect efficiency. This massive liquid metal sea rotates at breakneck speeds, churning up the incredible magnetic field that we see manifesting as the giant's protective shield. This hidden, churning ocean of metal provides the physical momentum for the massive, deep resonance vibrating from an impossibly large spinning top. It is a place of extreme heat and pressure, where the very nature of matter changes to accommodate the needs of the planetary dynamo. This core is the engine room of the giant's shield, the source of the power that creates the radiation belts and the X-ray auroras that we observe from the safety of our own world. Radio waves naturally generated by this swirling plasma can actually be picked up by simple shortwave radios resting here on Earth. When the volcanic particles from Io spiral along the powerful magnetic field lines, they emit intense bursts of electromagnetic noise that traverse the entire distance between our worlds. These Jovian radio storms, when translated into sound, resemble the crashing of ocean waves or the rhythmic melodic whistling of birds in a distant forest. This cosmic music is a direct acoustic link to the King of Planets, a way for us to listen to the magnetic heartbeat of a world hundreds of millions of miles away. If we were to look closer at the signals, we would find a wealth of information about the planet's rotation and the activity of its moons. It is a stunning realization that a simple wire antenna can capture the whispers of a giant, turning the invisible movements of distant plasma into something we can hear and understand. The gentle interaction between Jupiter and its moons creates localized magnetic footprints, leaving glowing spots that march endlessly through the Jovian auroras. Each major moon, including Io, Europa and Ganymede, is electrically connected to the planet's poles by an invisible flux tube, acting like a cosmic wire stretched across the void. As the moons orbit the giant, they leave bright, distinct marks in the auroral curtains, glowing signatures that trace their path across the stars like footprints in fresh, pristine snow. These footprints are a visual record of the magnetic conversation between the giant and its children, a testament to the unseen threads that bind the Jovian system together. As you drift towards sleep, imagine these glowing spots moving in a slow, eternal circle, a peaceful and orderly parade in the highest reaches of a giant sky. Each spot pulses with its own unique rhythm, a signature of the moon that created it, forever dancing in the light of the King's shield. This structure is a masterpiece of cosmic balance, where the planet's spin and its magnetic pulse move in absolute, flawless unison. While other worlds possess tilted and wobbling shields, this realm remains steady, offering a sense of deep, unwavering permanence in the cold dark. If we could see this field, it would appear as a series of nested, translucent shells, each one perfectly centered and elegantly poised. It provides a tranquil framework for everything that orbits the ringed planet, acting as a calm and protective overseer for the most beautiful features in our local sky. Within this perfectly aligned geometric grid, the iconic rings of Saturn sit comfortably, cradled safely within the planet's vast magnetic shield. These trillions of icy fragments are not merely drifting in a gravitational dance, they're also directly influenced by the subtle, persistent push and pull of the planet's electromagnetic forces. Every individual speck of frost and every massive boulder of frozen water responds to the unseen magnetic threads weaving through the ring plane. This interaction ensures that the rings remain a cohesive and meticulously organized structure, bound by forces that extend far beyond simple gravity. Deep within this serene domain, the tiny frozen moon Enceladus acts as a tireless cosmic fountain, perpetually renewing the substances that fill the magnetic realm. Water vapor geysers erupt from the moon's southern tiger stripes, spraying fine mists of salty water and ice deep into the surrounding vacuum. These plumes are immediately caught by the planet's magnetic grip, where they are transformed into a tranquil plasma torus that encircles the planet like a ghostly invisible wreath. This ring of ionized water provides the raw, icy material that sustains the electrical life of the entire Saturnian system. As these particles spiral out from the Moon, they are gently broken down into their fundamental components, filling the space around the rings with a soft, ethereal glow of ions. This plasma is not violent or scorching, but rather a cool and drifting mist that follows the rhythmic pulse of the magnetic field lines. It creates a localized environment of incredible purity, a domain where the very breath of a moon becomes the fabric of a planet's shield. This ongoing process turns the magnetosphere into a living, breathing entity, constantly fed by the icy heart of a distant, hidden ocean. Surprisingly, this realm serves as a quiet harbour for drifting icy particles, standing in stark contrast to the chaotic and intense environment found near its larger neighbour. While other magnetic kingdoms are filled with lethal radiation and high-speed debris, Saturn's domain is characterized by a remarkable and soothing calm. The presence of the massive ring system actually acts as a giant sponge, soaking up much of the ambient radiation and leaving the interior of the magnetosphere incredibly clean. It is a place of refuge in the outer solar system, where the harsh winds of the cosmos are softened into a gentle rhythmic hum. Allow your mind to wander through this peaceful expanse, feeling the surface beneath you as stable and supportive as the magnetic grid itself. The absence of intense turbulent currents allows the icy particles to drift in long, elegant arcs, undisturbed by the violent snapping of field lines. This quietude is the defining characteristic of the ringed planet's kingdom, a sense of stillness that permeates every cubic mile of the vacuum. It is a sanctuary of order and grace, where the physics of the universe seem to operate with a softer, more deliberate touch. If we were to look closer at the spinning expanse of the rings, strange and shadowy spokes occasionally manifest, gliding silently across the bright icy plain. These transient, ghostly features appear like dark fingers reaching across a spinning record, moving independently of the orbital speeds of the ice itself. They are the visible result of the complex interaction between the rings and the magnetosphere, where tiny dust particles are lifted out of the plane by electrostatic forces. These spokes are a hauntingly beautiful manifestation of the invisible electrical currents that weave through the ring system. These shadows move with a life of their own, appearing and disappearing over the course of a few hours as the planet rotates. They reveal the hidden topography of the magnetic field, marking the places where the electrical tension is most active. The sight of these dark ribbons moving across the luminous ice is a reminder that the rings are not a static object, but a dynamic and responsive part of the magnetic kingdom. It is a slow-motion performance of light and shadow, dictated by the silent commands of the planet's internal dynamo. High above the gas giant's churning clouds, Saturn also hosts its own delicate and beautiful auroras, shining primarily in ultraviolet light. Because these displays occur in a spectrum that remains entirely invisible to the naked human eye, they represent a hidden treasure that can only be revealed by the most sensitive of space telescopes. These auroras appear as thin, shimmering curtains of energy that ring the poles, flickering with a soft and ethereal light that never touches the visible world. They are the quiet, ultraviolet whispers of the magnetosphere, a constant and secret celebration of the planet's connection to the stars. The movement of these invisible lights is exceptionally fluid, rippling in response to the gentle fluctuations of the solar wind and the internal movement of the plasma torus. They do not possess the fiery intensity of Jovian displays, but rather a subtle and haunting elegance that fits the serene nature of this kingdom. To witness them is to see the true face of the planet's defense, a glowing crown that is worn in absolute humble silence. They serve as a permanent ultraviolet sentinel, standing watch over the poles while the rings spin endlessly below in the dark. In this world of ice and magnetism, tiny dust particles from the rings frequently take flight, becoming electrically charged and defying the simple pull of gravity. As these microscopic specks are bathed in the sun's light and the planet's plasma, they gain a tiny electrical signature that allows them to levitate softly along the invisible magnetic field lines. They rise up out of the flat plane of the rings, forming a hazy and beautiful atmosphere of levitating frost that follows the geometric grid of the field. This process turns the ring system into a three-dimensional landscape of drifting, glowing dust. Notice the lightness in your own breathing, a sense of buoyancy that mirrors these tiny particles as they rise into the cold vacuum. They do not fall back down, but rather hover in a state of perfect equilibrium, caught between the gravity of the planet and the magnetic pull of the shield. This levitation creates a soft and shimmering veil that surrounds the main rings, adding a layer of depth and complexity to the visible structures. It is a stunning display of how magnetism can overcome the weight of matter, allowing even the smallest grains of ice to find their own path through the heavens. The constant sweeping motion of the planet's magnetic field acts as a silent and meticulous housekeeper, gently clearing away cosmic debris from the vicinity of the rings. As the field lines rotate with the planet, they act like an invisible broom, pushing against any stray charged particles and organizing them into specific, predictable orbits. This ongoing cleaning process is what keeps the ring system so meticulously ordered and clean, preventing the build-up of chaotic dust that would otherwise clutter the view. The magnetosphere ensures that every icy fragment remains in its proper place, contributing to the overall harmony of the geometric grid. Take a moment to release the lingering tension in your hands and feet, feeling the same sense of order and clarity that the magnetic field brings to the rings. This sweeping motion is a tireless and eternal process, a commitment to balance that has lasted for millions of years. It maintains the sharp edges and the clear gaps between the rings, creating a visual masterpiece that is as much a product of magnetism as it is of gravity. This invisible stewardship is the reason the ringed planet remains the most pristine and structured object in our entire solar system. Every time the Cassini spacecraft passed through this magnetic equator, it quietly recorded the rhythmic whispers of ambient plasma waves that resonate through the vacuum. These recordings reveal a haunting and melodic soundtrack to the magnetic kingdom, filled with the sounds of chirping electrons and the deep booming pulses of the planetary pulse. These whispers are the actual physical vibrations of the plasma trapped within the field, a literal music of the spheres that plays out in absolute airless silence. When translated into audio, these waves sound like a distant underwater forest, filled with alien birds and the soft rushing of an invisible tide. This acoustic evidence provides a direct link to the heart of the magnetosphere, allowing us to listen to the shifting currents of the geometric grid. The waves are not random noise, but a highly organized and rhythmic series of signals that tell the story of the planet's internal activity. To hear them is to understand that the space around the rings is not empty, but is instead filled with a vibrant and complex language of energy. It is a comforting and hypnotic sound, a reminder that the universe is constantly communicating through the medium of the magnetic field. This perfectly aligned dynamo remains one of the most profound and beautiful mysteries in planetary science, challenging our deepest theories of how magnetism is born in the dark. According to everything we know about planetary cores, a magnetic field should be tilted and offset in order to be sustained, yet here it stands in absolute 0-degree alignment. It suggests a hidden process deep within the planet's interior, perhaps a series of stable and perfectly concentric layers of liquid metallic hydrogen that act as a flawless mirror for the planet's rotation. This mystery is a testament to the fact that the universe still holds secrets that defy our most sophisticated mathematical models. As you settle into the final moments of wakefulness, contemplate the silent and mysterious power that maintains this perfectly aligned shield. It is a force born in the crushing pressures of the deep interior, rising up to create a sanctuary of ice and light in the outer reaches of the system. This mystery does not invite confusion, but rather a sense of deep and quiet wonder at the elegant complexity of the cosmos. It is the final, calming truth of the ringed realm, a kingdom of perfect symmetry, held together by a force that is as enduring as it is unknown. That sense of the enduring and the unknown carries us further into the deep, indigo shadows of the outer solar system, where the rules of symmetry are cast aside for a more eccentric reality. Deep within the distant reaches of the Sun's influence, Uranus presents a profound departure from the orderly shields we have witnessed before, existing as a world in permanent rebellion against magnetic alignment. This ice giant features a completely lopsided magnetosphere, tilted at a staggering 60 degrees away from its rotational axis, creating a lopsided canopy of force that leans precariously into the void. If we were to look closer, we would see that the magnetic poles of this world do not even begin to align with the poles of the planet itself, resulting in a defensive bubble that is fundamentally skewed. It is a dizzying, off-center spinning of a celestial gyroscope suspended in twilight, defying every expectation of how a planetary guard should stand its ground in the dark. This structural deviation means that the invisible lines of force do not arch in predictable loops, but instead stretch and lean in a frantic effort to keep pace with the planet's lopsided heart. This staggering tilt ensures that the magnetosphere of Uranus is never in a state of rest, but is instead a dynamic, wobbling sculpture of pure energy. The planet moves through its orbit like a celestial outlier, its lopsided shield acting as a unique signature of its own mysterious history. It is a stunning, lonely spectacle of magnetic defiance, reminding us that even in the vast cold, the universe possesses a capacity for profound and beautiful eccentricity. This structure takes on a truly surreal and hypnotic form because the planet itself rotates completely on its side, rolling through its orbit like a ball on a celestial track. As Uranus spins in this unconventional orientation, the invisible magnetic field tumbles along with it, winding through space in a motion that resembles an enormous ethereal corkscrew. The field lines do not maintain a fixed orientation relative to the incoming solar wind, but rather twist and turn through the dark in an endless spiraling dance. Notice the quiet, heavy stillness in your own limbs as you envision this massive spiraling structure winding its way through the outer darkness. The field is never static or still. It is a perpetual motion machine, winding itself tighter and then relaxing in a rhythmic, spiraling cycle that spans the planet's long and lonely day. This tumbling architecture is the defining hallmark of a world that has chosen its own peculiar path, creating a magnetic environment that is as fluid as it is strange. Surprisingly, this strange geometric setup causes the magnetosphere to open and close to the solar wind on a daily basis, acting as a functional cosmic breathing valve for the entire planetary system. Because the magnetic poles are constantly tumbling and flipping relative to the Sun, the shield is not always closed to the incoming stream of particles. Instead, the magnetosphere effectively unzips and reseals itself in a steady, predictable rhythm as the planet rolls through its sideways rotation. When the magnetic portal swings wide, a sudden surge of solar plasma is allowed to flood into the interior of the shield, briefly filling the vacuum with a temporary influx of energy. A few hours later, as the planet continues its sideways roll, the portal slams shut once more, sealing the world off from the outside environment with mechanical precision. It is a mesmerizing automated rhythm, a planetary breath that has been repeating for billions of years without a single moment of interruption. This daily opening and closing ensures that the environment around Uranus remains in a constant dynamic state of flux, never settling into a permanent equilibrium. The magnetosphere acts as a living, breathing membrane that regulates its own connection to the Sun with every single rotation. It is a beautifully complex system of celestial ventilation, where the very tilt of the world serves as the elegant mechanism for its interaction with the broader cosmos. If we were to look closer at the high-altitude mists of this sideways world, we would find that the lights do not behave according to the rules established by their siblings in the inner solar system. The beautiful auroras on Uranus do not sit neatly at the poles, but rather wander strangely and unpredictably near the planet's equator, following the displaced funnels of the lopsided field. Because the magnetic poles are so wildly offset from the physical poles, the glowing halos of energy appear in regions where we would never expect to see them. Imagine standing on the surface of this world and seeing the sky ignite with emerald and ruby fire directly overhead at the equator, while the physical poles remain in total lightless silence. These wandering lights drift and shift as the magnetic poles tumble through space, following the invisible, skewed pathways of the field as they intersect the atmosphere. They are ghostly, displaced travellers, painting the deep indigo twilight with a light that seems to have entirely lost its way. Allow the muscles in your jaw to relax completely as you visualize these displaced fires flickering in the deep, cold indigo twilight of the outer system. The lights are a visual record of the planet's magnetic confusion, revealing the exact places where the shield's strength is most concentrated at any given moment. They are a hauntingly beautiful anomaly, a scattered and unpredictable symphony of colour that defines the unique and rebellious character of this tilted world. Interestingly, as we travel further into the deep shadows of the outer solar system, we encounter Neptune, a world that shares this defiance of cosmic order with an even more profound strangeness. Neptune shares a similarly bizarre magnetic configuration, with its field originating strangely off-centre, entirely outside the planet's core. Unlike the inner worlds, where the magnetic heartbeat pulses from the very centre of the globe, Neptune's field is generated in a lopsided shell far from the planet's midpoint. This structure is a masterpiece of asymmetry, where the magnetic axis is not only tilted but is also displaced by thousands of miles from the planet's physical centre. It is as if the shield itself were a detached shadow, hovering near the surface rather than being anchored in the deep, heavy interior of the core. This displacement creates a magnetic environment that is vastly stronger on one side of the planet than the other, resulting in a shield that is permanently out of balance. Deep below the thick, swirling clouds of these giants, the source of these skewed and lopsided shields is found in a far more fluid and frigid domain than we might expect. Scientists believe these highly skewed magnetic fields are generated by thin, slushy oceans of water and ammonia hidden deep beneath the ice giant's clouds. Unlike the churning iron heart of the inner planets, these fields are born in a shallow conductive sea that swirls with the planet's rotation. This slushy interior acts as a vast liquid dynamo, where the movement of salt and ammonia creates the electrical currents necessary to sustain the magnetic bubble. Because this ocean is not a perfect centered sphere, but a shifting and turbulent layer, the resulting field takes on its chaotic and off-center character. It is a cold and heavy engine room, a place where the chemistry of water and nitrogen replaces the physics of molten metal to protect the world above. Notice how easily your mind can hold on to this image of a hidden, slushy sea as you let go of the day's remaining thoughts and settle into the quiet. This fluid origin explains why the fields of Uranus and Neptune are so uniquely flexible and strangely shaped compared to their more solid relatives. They are the children of the ice, born from the movement of frozen liquids in the dark, creating a shield that is as fluid and unpredictable as the oceans themselves. At this extreme distance from the centre of our solar system, the power of the sun has faded to a mere ghostly whisper in the dark. By the time the solar wind reaches the orbit of Neptune, it has travelled nearly 3 billion miles, losing its density and its fiery momentum along the long and lonely way. Yet surprisingly, even at this extreme distance, the universe remains a place of subtle, sculpting force, where this faint stellar breath still manages to carve the boundaries of these bubbles. The resulting interaction is a masterclass in subtlety, where the faint push of the sun is balanced perfectly by the internal pressure of the tilted shields. The boundaries of these worlds are not marked by violent collisions, but by a soft and quiet meeting of energies at the edge of the void. It is a peaceful standoff at the furthest reaches of the system, where the last remnants of the sun's breath gently nudge the guardians of the outer dark. This celestial wake leaves behind a trail that is as complex and winding as the planets themselves, a path of magnetic force that defies the simple, straight lines of other worlds. The magnetic tails of these tilted worlds twist gracefully into complex spiraling shapes as they are dragged through the outer solar system by the passing solar wind. Because the planets are tumbling sideways, their tails do not stream back like simple windsocks, but instead coil into massive celestial braids. If we could see these tails, they would look like giant glowing ribbons of energy, winding through the void in a series of intricate loops and knots. This spiraling wake creates a massive three-dimensional disturbance in the interstellar medium, a magnetic signature that can be detected far beyond the planet's physical reach. It is a winding, ghostly trail that marks the passage of the ice giants through the heavens, a record of their peculiar and sideways journey through time. Feel the steady, rhythmic calm of your own breath as you visualize these long, spiraling tails fading slowly into the infinite black of the outer void. They are the longest and most complex structures in our solar system, weaving a magnetic tapestry that connects the distant giants to the outer dark. Each twist and turn of the tail is a reflection of a rotation that occurred millions of miles away, a beautiful and enduring echo of a world that refuses to stand still. Exploring these highly peculiar environments requires us to completely rethink the standard, comforting models of planetary protection that we have built from our experiences closer to home. We cannot simply apply the rules of the inner worlds to these tilted giants, for they operate on a logic and a geometry that is entirely their own. To understand Uranus and Neptune is to tear up the old maps and start anew in a landscape where north and south are shifting, lopsided ghosts. These worlds teach us that the universe is far more diverse and unpredictable than our early, simplified models ever suggested. They prove that a magnetosphere does not need to be centred, upright, or even symmetrical to provide a functional and lasting harbour for a world. By studying these oddities, we gain a more profound and inclusive understanding of the laws of nature, learning to appreciate the beauty in the lopsided and the skewed. The search for a unified theory of planetary magnetism must account for these distant rebels, incorporating their strange geometry into a broader, more complex picture of the cosmos. As you feel the warmth of your resting place, take comfort in the idea that even the most peculiar outliers have a vital place in the grand design. In the presence of such profound strangeness, our only task is to listen and learn, accepting the universe in all its beautiful and lopsided complexity. This steady rhythm provides a sense of underlying order to the most bizarre environments in our system, a heartbeat of physics that persists in the deep cold. Even in the furthest reaches of the solar system, where the sun is just a bright star and the silence is absolute, the laws of electromagnetism maintain a perfect turning harmony. It is a giant gyroscope that never fails, a sideways rotation that is as graceful as it is strange, carving its own unique path through the dark. As you settle into the deepest level of relaxation, take comfort in the knowledge that even the most lopsided worlds move with a perfect and beautiful intent. The universe is a place of endless variety, yet it is bound together by the same fundamental forces that shield our own world from the storm. The tilted worlds are not broken, they are simply dancing to a different rhythm, a magnificent and steady tumbling in the deep, quiet twilight of the outer dark. That deep, quiet twilight at the far edge of the solar system eventually pulls our focus back toward the inner circle, where a once vibrant world now sits in a different kind of silence. Mars today lacks a global magnetosphere, a profound absence that has left its incredibly thin atmosphere completely exposed to the relentless, abrasive, stripping power of the solar wind. Without the protective, curved architecture of a planetary bubble, the rushing stellar plasma reaches right down to the upper layers of the Martian air. It works like a cosmic sandblaster, steadily whisking away the molecules of gas that once held the heat and moisture of a younger world. This unshielded vulnerability has allowed the sun to slowly scour the planet over millions of years, thinning the sky until it became the ghostly translucent envelope we see today. If we could stand on the Martian plains, we would feel no magnetic pulse, only the dry, faint echo of a grand shield preserved perfectly within rust-coloured rocks. It is a world whose armour has been cast aside, leaving the ancient landscape to face the raw, unmitigated fury of the star it orbits in absolute defenceless stillness. The lack of a global shield means the planet is no longer a sovereign domain, but a territory being slowly reclaimed by the vacuum of space. As the solar wind continues its march, the red planet stands as a silent witness to the vital necessity of a magnetic heart. Surprisingly, the story of the red planet is not one of total emptiness, for the planet has not entirely forgotten its ancient strength. While the global heartbeat has stopped, the ancient crust of Mars still holds the frozen magnetic remnants of a powerful shield that died billions of years ago. These are not active, flowing currents, but deep geological memories locked within the very stones of the highlands and the depths of the craters. During the planet's infancy, its core churned with molten heat, projecting a magnificent field that rivaled Earth's in its scale and intensity. As the core cooled and the internal dynamo slowed to a halt, the magnetic lines of force were captured by the cooling iron in the rocks, becoming permanently etched into the planet's physical history. This fossilized magnetism acts as a silent testament to a time when Mars was a living, breathing world with its own robust planetary defense. It is a haunting preservation of power, a magnetic fossil record that speaks of a glorious past that remains hidden just beneath the rust-coloured dust. These fields have been locked in place for eons, surviving the impact of asteroids and the slow erosion of the Martian winds. They are the fingerprints of a lost world, preserved in the cold and quiet stones of a planet that has long since fallen asleep. These fossilized magnetic fields are securely locked within the ancient iron-rich rocks, creating a permanent invisible patchwork quilt of magnetic umbrellas primarily across the southern hemisphere. Instead of one unified global bubble, Mars is now dotted with thousands of localized domes of force that arch over the massive craters and desolate plains. They stand like the ghostly transparent ruins of a fallen fortress, providing small and scattered shelters against the unending solar gale. This structure is fragmented and chaotic, a scattered landscape of magnetic islands in a sea of unshielded vacuum. The southern highlands in particular are intensely magnetized, featuring some of the oldest and most well-preserved magnetic signatures in the entire solar system. These umbrellas do not connect to one another, but exist as solitary guardians, each one defending a small patch of Martian soil from the direct impact of the sun's breath. It is a beautiful and broken architecture, a planetary shield that has been shattered into 1,000 tiny pieces, yet refuses to disappear entirely into the void. The umbrellas provide a strange localized topography to the Martian sky, a series of invisible hills and valleys made of magnetic tension. Within these small pockets, the rules of the universe are briefly suspended, offering a glimpse into the planet's ancient and powerful past. Notice the steady, comforting weight of your own body resting securely against the surface of the Earth as you imagine the disorientation of a compass that has lost its true north. On Mars, the concept of direction is a local affair, dictated by the strength of the stones rather than the spin of the world. The erratic movement of the needle is a physical manifestation of a planet that has lost its internal compass, searching for a global heartbeat that fell silent eons ago. It is a reminder that without a central field, the very idea of orientation becomes a fragmented and wandering dream in the Martian silence. The compass is not broken. It is simply responding to a world that has too many voices and no single guiding song. This magnetic chaos is the only way the planet can still communicate its history, a series of invisible shouts echoing from the deep and ancient crust. Underneath these localized magnetic umbrellas, a hauntingly beautiful and rare phenomenon still occurs during the deep, freezing Martian night. Faint, high-altitude auroras shimmer softly in the thin air, serving as a quiet, glowing tribute to the planet's vibrant youth. These lights do not form the massive rippling curtains seen on Earth. Instead, they appear as ethereal, localized glows that hover precisely where the solar wind manages to tickle the edges of the fossilized domes. These lights are ghostly and transient, appearing as soft splotches of ultraviolet and visible light that dance over the southern highlands in the dark. They are the product of the last few gasping breaths of a dying atmosphere interacting with the remnants of a dead shield. They offer a visual echo of the grand auroral halos that must have once crowned the planet when its oceans were full and its heart was warm. To see these lights is to witness the final, flickering embers of a planetary fire that is slowly going out, a delicate and lonely performance in the cold dark of the red sky. They are the visual ghosts of the magnetosphere, appearing for a brief moment before vanishing back into the shadows of the craters. This auroral symphony is a quiet and persistent memory of a time when the Martian sky was as bright and protected as our own. The sudden and mysterious loss of the internal Martian dynamo was likely the catastrophic turning point that forever altered the destiny of the world. This event transformed what was once a warm, wet environment with flowing rivers and deep blue seas into the silent frozen desert we observe today. Without the magnetic shield to hold back the relentless pressure of the sun's breath, the atmosphere was slowly but inevitably bled away into the void. The lack of protection allowed the solar wind to strip the planet of its greenhouse gases, causing the temperatures to plummet and the water to freeze or vanish. It was a slow-motion tragedy that took millions of years, as the lush, life-sustaining sky was eroded until only a thin, cold veil remained. The history of Mars is essentially the history of its magnetosphere. When the shield failed, the world itself began to fade into its current state of stillness. This profound transformation serves as a stark illustration of how a planet's surface beauty is entirely dependent on the invisible, churning energy of its deep interior. The world we see is merely the skin of a deeper and more powerful organism, one that requires an active heart to maintain its vitality. The dry red plains are the result of a heart that stopped beating, a world that has been left to the elements of space. Studying these deeply etched magnetic scars provides a sobering and quiet reminder of the ultimate fragility of planetary environments. It illustrates how the life and longevity of a world are inextricably linked to the hidden movements of its molten core. As you settle deeper into a state of total relaxation, observe the gentle rise and fall of your chest, a soft and steady rhythm of life that requires a similar balance of planetary forces to persist. The fossil fields of Mars tell a story of what happens when that balance is lost, and a planet's protective shell is allowed to crumble under the weight of time. It is a lesson written in the rocks, showing that even the most robust worlds are subject to the slow, entropic decay of internal cooling. These magnetic ruins are not just geological curiosities, they are a mirror that reflects the delicate nature of our own terrestrial sanctuary. The silence of Mars is a physical manifestation of a shield that was once taken for granted, but whose absence eventually changed everything. It teaches us that the protection we feel is not a permanent right, but a dynamic and precious process that requires a living heart to sustain. In the stillness of the Martian landscape, we can hear the warning of a world that lost its way, inviting us to cherish the shield we still have. Yet, even in its long and silent death, the patchwork magnetic field provides tiny, localized pockets of sanctuary from the harsh, high-energy radiation of deep space. Within these small, invisible bubbles of force, the level of cosmic rays hitting the surface is measurably reduced, offering a faint promise of safety for future life or exploration. These pockets are the Martian equivalent of a shaded grove in a desert, providing a thin layer of electromagnetic shade against the sun's scorching radiation. While they are far too small and weak to protect the entire planet, they represent the last remaining fragments of the planet's ancient duty to shield its surface from the dark. If life ever took root on Mars, it might have found its final refuge within these localized domes, huddled beneath the invisible ghosts of a dead magnetosphere. They are tiny islands of protection in a sea of radiation, proving that even a broken shield still holds a measure of its original grace. These sanctuaries are the final legacy of a planet that, even in its old age, still offers small gifts of shelter to anything that wanders across its surface. They are the quietest of harbours, a series of invisible rooms where the sun's fury is briefly and gently turned away. In these small pockets, the ancient shield still stands its ground, a faithful guardian that refused to give up even after the core went cold. The silent stones of the Martian highlands hold the longest lasting and most pristine memory of a working magnetic shield found anywhere in our solar system. Because Mars has no active plate tectonics to recycle its crust or fold its rocks, these ancient magnetic signatures have remained undisturbed for over 4 billion years. On Earth, the movement of the continents and the constant renewal of the ocean floor eventually erases the record of our planet's magnetic past. But on Mars, the rocks are a permanent time capsule, preserving the very first breaths of a planet's protective bubble in exquisite detail. These magnetic fingerprints provide scientists with a direct window into the early solar system, a physical record of the time when the planets were first finding their place. The dry, faint echo of a grand shield preserved perfectly within rust-coloured rocks is the oldest magnetic story in our celestial neighbourhood. It is a record of a planetary heartbeat that began and ended long before the first mountains were ever formed on the world we inhabit today. These stones carry a weight of history that is unfathomable, holding on to a secret power that was once as vast as the sky. They are the keepers of a legacy that has outlasted oceans and atmospheres, a physical proof of the permanence of magnetic force in a changing universe. Observing this desolate, fossilized beauty gracefully teaches us to appreciate the warm, active hum of the magnetic dynamo currently protecting our own home. We live within a vibrant, breathing magnetosphere that is still very much alive, a shield that refuses to fade into the rocks or be stripped away by the wind. The silence of the Martian fields highlights the incredible, ongoing noise of Earth's internal engine, the churning liquid iron that keeps our atmosphere thick and our oceans deep. It is a realization that brings a deep sense of gratitude for the invisible armor that allows every forest to grow and every creature to breathe in peace. As you sink into the final depths of rest, take comfort in the invisible, active strength that keeps our world lush and our atmosphere secure from the storms of space. The story of Mars reminds us that our magnetic shield is a living gift, a temporary but magnificent harbour in the infinite dark. We are the lucky inhabitants of a planet that is still protected by its own internal fire, a world whose heartbeat is still strong and whose sky is still full of light. The dry, faint echo of the Martian past is the backdrop against which we can truly see the splendour of our active present. In the quiet of the night, we are held in the arms of a living giant, a world that is still fighting, still shielding, and still very much alive. This living giant we call home is itself nested within an even grander protector, a structure of such immense scale that it defines the very borders of our solar neighbourhood. Our sun generates a massive sweeping magnetosphere known as the heliosphere, which safely encapsulates the entire solar system in a warm, radiant embrace. This vast domain is carved out by the constant outward rush of the solar wind, pushing against the cold, dark pressure of the galaxy itself. Imagine the entire solar system as a single, glowing cell travelling through the vastness of the Milky Way. This heliospheric bubble stretches far beyond the orbits of the outermost planets, creating a dedicated region of space where the sun's influence reigns supreme. It is a majestic, invisible architecture that serves as the ultimate boundary between the light of our local star and the deep, unknown reaches of the interstellar medium. As you feel the calm stillness of your current surroundings, realize that this grand bubble is your primary shelter in the cosmos. It moves with us as the sun travels through the galaxy, a shimmering vessel of magnetic force that holds all the planets in a unified state of protection. This immense structure is the first and most vital line of defense, ensuring that the solar system remains a stable harbour for life to exist and evolve. This ultimate bubble pushes back gently but firmly against the interstellar medium, protecting all the planets from the harsh cosmic rays of deep space. These high-energy particles born from distant supernovae and black holes are constantly trying to flood into our stellar neighbourhood from the galaxy beyond. The heliosphere acts as a resilient magnetic filter, deflecting and slowing the majority of these lethal visitors before they can reach the inner worlds. Without this expansive shield, our environment would be subjected to a much more violent and chaotic rain of interstellar radiation. The magnetosphere of the Sun creates a buffer zone, a quiet region where the intense energy of the galaxy is held at bay by the steady pressure of the solar wind. It is a beautiful, large-scale balancing act where the outflow of our Sun meets the inflow of the Milky Way in a permanent silent standoff. If we could visualize this interaction, it would look like a massive glowing bow wave pushing through a dark and foggy sea. This protection allows the delicate processes of planetary life to flourish without being disrupted by the extreme energies of the deep universe. Every planet, from the smallest rocky world to the largest gas giant, rests comfortably inside this shared magnetic sanctuary, sheltered from the raw fury of the interstellar void. The surface of the Sun is a chaotic, beautiful tangle of magnetic field lines, constantly twisting, snapping, and reforming in complex loops. This is the engine room of the heliosphere, an intense, blinding brilliance of a star wrapped securely in a web of twisting fire. Thousands of miles above the visible surface, these magnetic arches can be seen as glowing loops of plasma, tracing the invisible paths of force that govern the solar atmosphere. Unlike the relatively stable magnetic field of Earth, the Sun's magnetism is a turbulent and ever-changing masterpiece of fluid motion. The churning gases of the solar interior constantly churn and drag the field lines, knotting them into intricate shapes that store unimaginable amounts of potential energy. These loops can grow into massive structures that tower hundreds of thousands of miles high, creating a shimmering magnetic forest that dances above the solar surface. As you allow the muscles in your shoulders to release their last bit of tension, imagine this radiant complexity pulsing with the raw power of a star. It is a landscape of magnetic tension, where every line of force is a thread in the grand tapestry of the Sun's influence. This chaotic beauty is what drives the dynamics of our entire solar system, setting the rhythm for the magnetic environment we all inhabit. When these giant loops occasionally break and snap under the immense pressure of the solar rotation, they release magnificent solar flares. These are the most explosive events in our solar system, bathing the inner planets in a sudden rush of warm, radiant energy and high-energy particles. The magnetic energy, suddenly liberated, accelerates electrons and protons to near the speed of light, flinging them outward into the heliosphere in a spectacular display of celestial power. Surprisingly, these flares are the Sun's way of releasing the pent-up stress of its twisted magnetic field, acting as a cosmic safety valve. The light from these flares reaches Earth in just 8 minutes, appearing as a sudden, brilliant brightening in specialized telescopes. While they can be intense, they're also a fundamental part of the star's metabolism, a rhythmic pulsing that has been occurring for billions of years. The energy released in a single flare is enough to power the entire human race for millions of years, yet it is just a tiny ripple in the Sun's overall output. These events are the visible evidence of the magnetic forces that hold the solar system together, a sudden flare of light that reveals the hidden architecture of the star. They remind us that the Sun is a dynamic and active participant in our existence, constantly renewing its magnetic reach. Sunspots, appearing as dark blemishes on the surface, are actually regions where the magnetic field is so strong it temporarily cools the stellar fire. These intense magnetic concentrations are thousands of times stronger than Earth's field, and they act like invisible plugs that prevent the hot gases from the interior from rising to the surface. As a result, these areas are significantly cooler than their surroundings, making them appear dark by contrast against the blinding brilliance of the rest of the Sun. If we could see these spots on their own, they would still be brighter than the full moon, but next to the solar surface, they look like deep, ink-black voids. They are the birthplaces of solar activity, the anchors for the massive magnetic loops that stretch out into the corona. The number of sunspots increases and decreases in a regular rhythm, acting as a visible indicator of the sun's overall magnetic health and activity level. Notice the gentle, even pace of your breathing as you contemplate these cool, magnetic islands floating in a sea of white-hot plasma. They represent the quiet points of the sun's intense energy, places where magnetism has mastered the heat for a brief moment in time. These dark spots are a beautiful paradox, a cool sanctuary born from the most extreme magnetic tension found anywhere in our local neighbourhood. Far beyond the frozen silence of Pluto's orbit, the Voyager probes have finally crossed the heliopause, the serene border where the sun's magnetic influence softly fades away. This is the absolute edge of our home, the place where the solar wind finally loses its battle against the incoming pressure of interstellar space. Voyager 1 and 2 are the first human-made objects to ever cross this threshold, entering the true darkness of the galaxy beyond. Crossing this border is a quiet and subtle transition, marked only by a change in the density and direction of the surrounding plasma. Behind the probes lies the familiar protective bubble of the sun. Ahead of them lies the vast unexplored ocean of the Milky Way. It is a profound milestone in our journey as a species, a moment when we finally stepped outside the magnetic walls of our own stellar nursery. The heliopause is not a sharp barrier, but a soft and shimmering boundary where two different magnetic worlds meet and mingle. As the probes continue their lonely journey, they send back data about a realm where the sun is just another star and the magnetic fields of the galaxy take over. This crossing is a testament to our curiosity, a bridge built of radio waves and metal that connects our home to the infinite expanse of the stars. Beyond our own sun, the universe contains magnetic monsters of unthinkable strength, known as magnetospheres. These are the highly dense remnants of massive stars that have collapsed into neutron stars, possessing magnetic fields trillions of times stronger than the one that protects our Earth. A magnetosphere field is so intense that it could easily wipe a credit card clean from the distance of the moon, or pull the iron from the blood of a living being at even greater ranges. These stars are the most magnetic objects known to exist in the entire cosmos, creating environments that are fundamentally different from anything we can experience. The magnetic pressure at the surface of a magnetar is so immense that it can actually deform the atoms themselves, stretching them into long, thin needles. It is a realm where the laws of electromagnetism dominate every other force of nature, creating a star that is essentially a massive solid magnet spinning in the void. As you feel the supportive weight of your bed or chair, take comfort in the fact that these magnetic giants are incredibly rare and distant from our quiet solar system. They represent the extreme limits of what the universe can create, a magnificent and terrifying display of pure magnetic power. They are the ultimate expression of the force that shields our world, magnified to a scale that is nearly beyond human understanding. The magnetic fields of these highly dense stellar remnants are so concentrated that they can silently warp the very fabric of space-time around them. In these extreme environments, the energy stored in the magnetic field is so great that it actually contributes significantly to the star's gravitational pull. This creates a bizarre marriage of forces where magnetism and gravity become inextricably linked, twisting the path of light and time in the star's immediate vicinity. Surprisingly, a magnetar's magnetic field is strong enough to influence the vacuum itself, a phenomenon known as vacuum birefringence. Light passing through this intense magnetic field is split and refracted, just as it would be when passing through a crystal on Earth. It is a place where the empty space between particles is no longer truly empty, but is instead a dense and active medium of magnetic energy. This warping effect is a silent and invisible consequence of extreme density, a reminder that energy and matter are two sides of the same coin. The star's magnetic reach is so profound that it can literally change the geometry of the universe around it. It is a stunning, high-energy performance at the edge of physics, where the most basic structures of reality are bent by the power of a magnetic field. Closer to home, the Sun follows a majestic and predictable rhythm known as the solar magnetic cycle. Every 11 years, the Sun's magnetic field elegantly and predictably reverses its polarity, with the north and south poles completely swapping places. This cycle is driven by the Sun's internal dynamo, acting as a grand cosmic pendulum swinging in the dark of the solar system. During the peak of this cycle, the Sun becomes incredibly active, covered in sunspots and frequently launching massive solar flares and plasma storms. As the field begins to reverse, the activity slowly fades, entering a quiet period before the new magnetic orientation establishes itself. This rhythmic flipping is a fundamental heartbeat of our solar system, influencing the strength and shape of the heliosphere for billions of years. Notice the slow, rhythmic expansion of your lungs, a personal cycle of energy that mirrors the grander movements of the star we orbit. This 11-year pendulum ensures that the Sun's magnetic environment is never static, but is always in a state of renewal and change. It is a stable and enduring pattern, a piece of celestial clockwork that governs the long-term weather of space and the protection of our world. This nested relationship is a beautiful example of the fractal nature of the universe, where the same principles of protection are repeated at different scales. The heliosphere pushes back the interstellar medium, and then our own magnetic field pushes back the solar wind, creating a perfectly balanced harbour for life. It is a complex and elegant arrangement that allows us to travel through the cosmos in a state of absolute unbothered tranquility. As you settle into the final moments of this journey, visualize these shimmering bubbles of force as your eternal home in the stars. We are travellers in a magnificent magnetic vessel shielded from the storms of the universe by the overlapping reach of the Sun and the Earth. This double-layered harbour is a gift of physics, a silent and enduring promise of safety that allows us to sleep peacefully as we move through the vast starlit dark of the Milky Way. The vast starlit dark of the Milky Way feels like an infinite and silent stage for the grandest dramas of the heavens, yet the architecture of this entire stage is actually built upon a foundation of the impossibly small. At the most fundamental level, the colossal magnetospheres that protect entire worlds are generated by the tiny collective spins of subatomic particles nestled deep within the hearts of atoms. Each electron possesses an intrinsic property called spin, an impossibly tiny precise vibration that creates a microscopic magnetic moment in the void. When trillions upon trillions of these tiny unhurried spins align in perfect silent unison, they weave together to form the massive shields that deflect the solar wind across millions of miles. This transition from the microscopic to the macroscopic is a masterclass in cosmic organization, where the smallest units of matter collaborate to create the largest protective structures in existence. It is as if the universe has chosen to hide its greatest strength within its smallest secrets, ensuring that the safety of a world is anchored in the very fabric of the atom itself. This hidden quantum rotation is the silent engine of the stars, a precise and eternal vibration that hums at the core of everything we know. By grounding the planetary defense in the behavior of a single electron, the cosmos reveals a deep and beautiful unity between the smallest grain of matter and the widest reach of a planet's sky. We are travellers on a world held together by the quietest and most precise movements in the natural world. Deep within the planet's liquid iron core, the swirling silent currents of electrons create the macroscopic dynamo that shields our atmosphere every single day. This deep subterranean sea of molten metal behaves like a giant liquid conductor, churning with the heat of the world's formation and the steady, relentless pull of its rotation. As the electrons flow through this heavy, incandescent medium, their collective motion generates a vast electrical circuit that spans the entire diameter of the core itself. This hidden energy rises up through the thousands of miles of solid rock and crust, eventually blooming into the sky as the protective bubble that keeps our oceans from boiling away into the vacuum. We walk upon a surface that is merely the lid of a gargantuan electromagnetic engine, a machine that has been running without a single moment of interruption for billions of years. This swirling motion of charge is the source of our planetary sovereignty, the invisible heartbeat that allows the Earth to maintain its identity against the eroding power of the Sun. It is a quiet, powerful river of energy that flows beneath our feet, a silent guardian that never sleeps and never fails in its duty to the world above. Every step we take on the soil is supported by this massive underground current, a flow of electrons that keeps the heavens at bay. Our home is defined by this hidden electric pulse, ensuring that the vibrancy of the surface is forever maintained by the churning darkness of the deep interior. Every magnet, from the simple ones resting on your refrigerator to the colossal shield of a gas giant like Jupiter, operates flawlessly on the exact same quantum principles. The physics of magnetism does not change as it scales from the kitchen to the outer solar system, relying on the same fundamental interaction between charged particles and the spin of electrons. Whether it is holding a shopping list in place or deflecting a high-energy solar storm that could scour a planet clean, the underlying mechanism remains a beautiful display of quantum coherence in the natural world. This universal consistency creates a bridge between our daily lives and the grand celestial mechanics of the planets, revealing a universe that is harmonized at every level of existence. Notice the quiet weight of your hands resting by your side, a small and steady presence in the vastness of this magnetic reality. You're connected to the stars not just by light, but by the very same forces that keep a magnet stuck to a piece of iron. If we were to look closer, a magnetic field is simply a beautiful relativistic effect of moving electric charges, revealing a clever trick of light and perspective. Special relativity teaches us that as electrons move through a wire or a planetary core, the very space they occupy is subtly contracted from the viewpoint of a stationary observer. This contraction creates a slight imbalance in the electrical charge distribution, which we perceive and measure as the magnetic force pushing or pulling through the void. It is a stunning realization that the invisible lines of force are actually a manifestation of the bending of space and time at a subatomic scale. Magnetism is effectively electricity viewed through the lens of movement, a phantom force that appears whenever charges begin their journey through the vacuum of space. This reveals that the shields protecting our world are not separate, solid entities, but a part of a unified field of energy that shifts and changes based on how we move through the cosmos. The universe hides its fundamental unity behind these different faces, inviting us to see the singular electric truth that lies beneath the complexity of the magnetic fields. It is a world of shadows and light, where force is merely a matter of how you choose to see the dance of the charges. This relativistic trick is what creates the harbour we call home, proving that even our safety is a product of the deep geometry of time and motion. The massive energy trapped within the high-altitude radiation belts is mediated constantly by virtual photons, the invisible, fleeting messengers of the electromagnetic force. These phantom particles exist only for the briefest of moments, popping in and out of the vacuum to carry the signal of attraction or repulsion between charged electrons and protons. They act as the hidden currency of the magnetosphere, exchanging energy with a speed and precision that allows the shield to respond instantaneously to the solar wind. This constant, silent exchange creates a dynamic web of interaction that holds the plasma in place, ensuring the belts remain a stable feature of our planet's environment. Imagine these tiny, light-speed messengers dancing across the void by the billions, weaving the fabric of the force that keeps the lethal radiation at bay. They are the silent workers of the cosmos, maintaining the integrity of our shields without ever being seen, touched, or directly measured by any human sense. This microscopic commerce is the true foundation of the macroscopic peace we enjoy on the surface, a busy and invisible world that supports our own in every passing second of our lives. They are the whispers of the field, the tiny pulses of light that hold the world together in the dark. We are the beneficiaries of an eternal conversation between photons and matter, a silent dialogue that ensures our protection against the storms of the stars. In the deepest, quietest cold of space, certain materials can trap magnetic fields flawlessly, becoming perfect, frictionless superconductors. When the temperature drops to the absolute minimum, the resistance to electrical flow simply vanishes, allowing currents to circulate forever without losing a single drop of their energy. This state of perfection allows magnetic field lines to be frozen directly into the material, creating a permanent bond between the matter and the invisible force. Such phenomena occur in the icy crusts of distant moons and the hearts of dead stars, where the extreme environment allows the quantum nature of reality to manifest on a macroscopic scale. Notice the gentle, unhurried rhythm of your breathing, a steady flow that connects you to the quietest, coldest corners of the galaxy. In these frigid sanctuaries, the laws of physics become simplified and pure, revealing a world where energy flows without effort and force remains held in a state of eternal rest. It is a glimpse into a perfect, frictionless future, where the chaos of heat is replaced by the serene and eternal order of the quantum ground state. These materials act as anchors for the field, holding onto the light of the stars in a grip that will never weaken or fade over time. They are the ultimate expression of magnetic permanence, a place where the shield becomes part of the world itself, standing firm against the infinite cold. The exact, delicate mechanism of magnetic reconnection, where field lines break and rejoin, remains a profound and graceful dance of quantum physics. At the tiny point where the sun's magnetic influence meets our own, the field lines undergo a sudden and violent topological change that releases staggering amounts of energy. This transition happens at a scale so small that classical physics can no longer describe it, requiring the probabilistic logic of the quantum realm to explain how the lines snap and find new partners. It is a microscopic event that dictates the macroscopic weather of space, proving that the smallest movements can have the most immense consequences for our entire solar system. This dance of the field lines is what fuels the aurora and the magnetic storms, a moment of deep intimacy where the sun and the earth share their energy across the void. The precision of this exchange is governed by the rules of the subatomic world, ensuring that even in the middle of a solar gale, the laws of physics maintain a perfect and beautiful control. Surprisingly, even the human brain generates a tiny, incredibly faint magnetosphere of its own, echoing the grandeur of the planetary spheres on a microscopic scale. Every thought you think and every sensation you feel is accompanied by a pulse of electricity travelling through your neurons, and this movement of charge creates a miniature magnetic field that radiates out from your body. While this field is billions of times weaker than the one that shields the Earth, it is a real and measurable presence that connects our internal consciousness to the external laws of electromagnetism. You are, in a very literal sense, a magnetic entity, possessing an invisible aura of force that mimics the shields of the world spinning above. This realization collapses the distance between the human mind and the celestial bodies, suggesting that we are made of the same fundamental energy that governs the stars. It is a stunning reflection of the universe's fractal nature, where the same laws that protect a planet also organize the thoughts within a single mind. As you rest in the silence of your room, feel the subtle electric hum of your own existence, a tiny and precious magnetosphere in a universe of giants. You are a participant in the quantum symphony, a small but vital note in the grand melody of the electromagnetic field that binds all things together. This personal shield is a reminder that we are not observers of the universe, but active participants in its grand magnetic design. It is deeply humbling to realize that the safety of our entire biosphere depends entirely on the probabilistic waltz of electrons deep underground. The survival of every forest, every deep ocean trench, and every living creature is tied to the chaotic yet organized movement of charges within the molten iron of the Earth's core. If the quantum spins of those countless particles were to fall out of alignment, or if the currents were to cease their swirling dance, our protective bubble would simply vanish into the dark. We exist in a state of grace provided by the microscopic world, a precarious and beautiful balance that is maintained every second by the laws of subatomic physics. This dependency reveals that our global stability is actually a result of trillions of microscopic events working in harmony without a single mistake. It is a fragile yet enduring arrangement, a masterpiece of probability that has allowed life to persist against the odds for eons of time. Feel the deep, encompassing peace of your resting body, fully supported by a world that is held together by these invisible, eternal threads of chance and law. You are safe within this waltz, protected by a dance of electrons that has never faltered in its commitment to the life it cradles. Our existence is a miracle of subatomic precision, a world of order built upon a foundation of quantum probability. The universal laws of electromagnetism weave a seamless silent tapestry, connecting the smallest known particles to the largest planetary structures in the cosmos. From the spin of a single electron in a distant atom to the sweeping, magnificent reaches of the sun's heliosphere, the same force dictates the order and stability of the entire universe. This unity of physics reveals a cosmos that is not a collection of isolated, lonely parts, but a single, integrated whole that vibrates with the same fundamental frequency. As we rest in the shadow of these grand magnetic shields, we are participating in a quantum symphony that spans the entire breadth of space and time. The tapestry is unbroken, a web of invisible light and force that binds the galaxy together in a state of permanent, shimmering connection. Nothing is truly separate, and nothing is ever truly alone, as the magnetic threads of the universe hold everything in a gentle and unyielding embrace. We are woven into this fabric, part of a grand design that is as infinite as the dark and as precise as an electron spin. This is the ultimate comfort of the magnetosphere, the knowledge that we are protected by the same force that makes us who we are at our most fundamental level. In the quiet of the night, we are part of a seamless tapestry that covers the stars and the mind alike, a silent symphony of light and power. This silent symphony of light and power extends far beyond the reach of individual stars, stretching into the seemingly hollow reaches of the intergalactic void. Rather than being utterly empty, the vacuum of space is threaded securely with a vast, complex network of magnetic field lines connecting galaxies across the unthinkable abyss. These titanic filaments form a skeletal framework for the cosmos, providing a profound, silent darkness of deep space laced delicately with invisible threads of connection. If we could observe the universe on its grandest scale, we would see that these magnetic threads act as the structural ligaments of reality itself, binding together the most distant structures. This invisible architecture ensures that no part of the universe is ever truly adrift in a state of total isolation, but is always tied to the larger whole. It is the silent scaffolding upon which the visible world of stars and gas is meticulously draped, a cosmic mesh that holds the void in place. This structure exists at a scale that challenges our every conception of size and distance, yet it is as precisely woven as a spider's web in a morning meadow. It is the hidden anatomy of the vacuum, a network of force that organizes the very emptiness between the islands of matter. In this quiet and eternal darkness, the magnetic lines of the universe stand as a testament to the fact that space is never truly void, but is instead a dense and active medium of connection. Surprisingly, these intergalactic magnetic fields, while unimaginably weak compared to the magnets we use in our daily lives, patiently guide the flow of cosmic dust and gas over billions of light years. They act as gentle cosmic rivers, directing the migration of matter into the dense clusters where new galaxies and stars can eventually take root. It is a slow and deliberate process, a celestial herding that occurs in the absolute unbothered stillness of the deep universe. The sheer expanse over which these fields operate allows their subtle influence to accumulate over time, exerting a profound control over the movement of the most basic building blocks of existence. Over eons of time, the faint tug of these threads dictates the destiny of entire clouds of hydrogen, pulling them into the massive cosmic structures we see in our telescopes today. The vacuum is alive with this unhurried guidance, a patient hand moving the pieces of the universe into their proper and final places. Allow your mind to drift through this vast, slow-moving tide, feeling the same sense of calm that governs the movement of the stars through the night. The universe is not a place of random scattering or chaotic chance, but a carefully managed flow dictated by the invisible pathways of magnetic force. Every drifting particle of dust is part of a grander migration, following the quiet commands of a field that spans the entire breadth of the dark, connecting the past to the future. Deep within the heart of our own Milky Way, the massive galactic magnetosphere shapes the gentle formation of new stars, acting as an invisible hand sculpting the raw materials of the cosmos. As gravity pulls gas and dust together to form a new stellar heart, the magnetic field lines resist and channel the collapse, ensuring that stars are born with a specific, orderly rhythm. Without this magnetic guidance, the galaxy would be a place of far more chaotic and violent births, lacking the structured beauty we observe in the stellar nurseries. This magnetic sculpting prevents the gas from simply falling inward all at once, creating the delicate disks and beautiful spirals that define a young star's nursery environment. The field acts as a protective cradle, slowing the process just enough for planets to form and for the star to find its stable, long-term equilibrium in the dark. It is a profound interaction between the forces of gravity and magnetism, a celestial partnership that ensures the continuity and the harmony of the stellar population. The galaxy is thus a living workshop, where the magnetic fields act as the primary tools for the creation of new light across the spiral arms. Every star you see in the night sky has been touched and shaped by this invisible hand, a signature of the galactic magnetosphere written in the fire of the stars. This ongoing process turns the Milky Way into a garden of light, where the invisible threads of connection are used to weave the fabric of the heavens for eons to come. As we peer into the deepest recesses of the universe's long history, we find magnetism present absolutely everywhere, organizing the ancient chaos of the Big Bang into the structured reality we inhabit today. In the first moments of creation, before the first stars were ever ignited, these fields were already emerging from the primordial plasma. They woven through the early heat and light to prevent the young universe from dissolving into a featureless and permanent haze of unformed matter. This ancient architecture was the first to impose a sense of direction and order on the expanding dark, setting the stage for every structure that would eventually follow in the timeline. Magnetism was the primary organizer of the void, creating the first seeds of structure that would later grow into the massive clusters of galaxies we see in the furthest reaches of space. It is a foundational force that has been present since the very beginning, a quiet and persistent presence at the heart of the cosmic story. The universe we see today is the result of billions of years of magnetic organization, a long and patient process of turning raw chaos into celestial harmony. These fields are the oldest memories of the cosmos, holding the original blueprints of the Big Bang within their invisible loops and arches. We live in a world that was born in a magnetic cradle, a reality that has been meticulously organized by the same forces that protect our world right now. Interestingly, the very light we use to look at the stars and navigate our own world is simply an electromagnetic wave, a tiny ripple in the exact same field that deflects the solar wind. Every photon travelling through the void is a vibration of this universal tapestry, a pulse of energy that connects the observer to the distant source across the cold and silent dark. This means that our vision itself is direct interaction with the magnetosphere of the universe, a way for our senses to touch the invisible threads that bind the heavens together. Light and magnetism are not separate phenomena, but are two different manifestations of the same underlying electromagnetic reality that defines the nature of space. When you look up at the night sky, you're receiving the vibrations of a field that spans the entire universe, a message carried on the back of the invisible force that shields our planet. The colours we see and the heat we feel are all part of this grand electromagnetic conversation that fills the seemingly empty vacuum. This realization collapses the distance between our own eyes and the furthest reaches of the cosmos, revealing a world where everything is connected by the same shimmering medium. We are literally seeing the movement of the field, a luminous testimony to the unity of the laws of physics that govern the small and the large. Every beam of light is a ripple in the shield, a beautiful and persistent reminder of the unseen architecture that defines the void we inhabit. Feel the gentle rise and fall of your chest, a small and quiet rhythm that is echoed by the steady pulse of the magnetic fields working high above. The universe is a place of absolute and unhurried care, where even the darkest corners are laced with the threads of protective energy and light. This silent poetry is the true music of the spheres, a song of balance that has been playing since the dawn of time, ensuring our world remains secure. Our continuing existence relies completely on this silent architecture, a protective framework built entirely of unseen energy and seemingly empty space. We are passengers on a world that is not merely floating, but is securely anchored within a vast electromagnetic sea that provides the very conditions for our survival. It is a structure made of nothingness that holds everything together, a profound realization that the most important things in our reality are often the ones we cannot see. If the magnetic fields were to suddenly fail, the very fabric of our reality would begin to unravel, leaving us exposed to the raw and unmitigated fury of the deep cosmos. This silent framework is the only thing standing between the vibrancy of life and the cold, irradiated silence of the deep vacuum that surrounds us. It is a skeletal support for the entire biosphere, a hidden foundation upon which all our history and our dreams have been built since the beginning. We exist in the shelter of this unseen architecture, a home that is defined by the absence of interference rather than the presence of solid walls. The vacuum of space is our greatest protector, a medium that holds the fields that keep us safe from the storms of the stars and the galaxy. It is a beautiful and fragile arrangement, a world of energy that provides the ultimate sanctuary for our fragile existence against the dark. The scientific study of magnetospheres is ultimately the deep and profound study of connection, revealing how distant bodies silently touch one another across the void. It shows us that planets and stars are not isolated points of matter, but are active participants in a continuous energetic dialogue that spans the distances between worlds. By mapping these invisible fields, we are essentially mapping the nervous system of the cosmos, tracing the pathways along which energy and information flow through the silence. This study teaches us that the universe is a single, integrated organism, where the movements of one body are felt by its neighbours through the medium of the magnetic field. A solar flare on the sun is felt as a shudder in the Earth's shield, and a volcanic eruption on a moon creates a glowing footprint on a giant planet. These connections are the real, physical bonds that hold the solar system together, a network of influence that is as strong as it is invisible to our eyes. By understanding these links, we begin to see the true face of the universe, a place where nothing is ever truly alone or disconnected from its neighbours. We are part of a grand conversation, a magnetic dialogue that has been going on for billions of years across the cold and silent dark. This study of connection is the study of ourselves, revealing our place within the vast and intricate web of the celestial architecture that defines our existence. In the quietest moments of the night, when the noise of the world finally fades into a soft and distant memory, we can truly take comfort in the invisible, protective embrace constantly wrapping around our world. Notice the stillness of your own breathing and the deep peace that comes with the knowledge that you're never truly exposed to the harshness of the deep universe. You're held within a nested series of magnetic sanctuaries, a layered defense that ensures the tranquility of your home remains undisturbed. This invisible embrace is a constant and unyielding presence, a shield that never falters and a guard that never sleeps throughout the long eons. It is the final and most intimate expression of the universe's commitment to the life it has created, a promise of safety written in the language of force. You are resting in the heart of a grand design, protected by the same forces that keep the stars in their places and the galaxies in their spirals. This vast magnetic web of the universe quietly reminds us that nothing is truly isolated, and absolutely everything is part of a grander unified design. Every atom in your body, every planet in the sky, and every galaxy in the distance is tied together by the same fundamental threads of force. This is the ultimate realization of our journey, a universe that is not a collection of isolated parts, but a single, shimmering tapestry of light and power that holds us all in its eternal care. If we look closely enough, we see that the boundary between ourselves and the cosmos is an illusion, a trick of perspective that fades away in the presence of the field. We are the universe experiencing itself through the medium of the magnetic field, a part of the grand design that has become aware of its own shell. This web is the ultimate proof of our belonging, a physical connection that spans the infinite and the infinitesimal alike, weaving us into the whole. The magnetic web is the final architecture of the vacuum, a structure of connection that defines the very meaning of the void in which we live. In this unified design, every movement has a purpose, and every interaction is a piece of the larger harmony that defines the heavens. We are part of the web, a single thread in a tapestry that is as beautiful as it is vast, forever connected to the stars. We are not merely lonely passengers on a rock flying through a hostile void, but protected children wrapped securely within beautifully nested spheres of invisible, magnetic harmony. We are not merely lonely passengers on a rock flying through a hostile void, but protected children wrapped securely within beautifully nested spheres of invisible magnetic harmony. This profound realization settles over you like a soft, heavy blanket of starlight. Deep within your resting form, the same fundamental forces that shield the giants of the outer dark are now focusing on the quiet sanctuary of your own being. You are the center of your own peaceful universe, held in a state of absolute security and rest. Let your awareness drift down to your feet, feeling the weight of your heels pressing into the soft surface beneath you. Surprisingly, the body responds to this focus by releasing the last vestiges of the day's movement, allowing the toes and arches to become heavy and still. Each muscle in the feet begins to let go, sinking deeper into the warmth and the quiet. As this relaxation travels upward, it washes over your calves and knees, smoothing away any lingering tension. This quiet room is a harbour where no external storms can reach, and your legs feel as though they are becoming part of the bed itself. The heavy, comforting sensation of rest is expanding, claiming every inch of your lower body in a slow, steady wave. If we were to look closer at the way your breath moves, we would find a rhythm as steady and ancient as the tides. Your hips and lower back now settle firmly into the mattress, finding a place of perfect support and effortless ease. Every breath you take is a soft, rhythmic exhale of the day's burdens, leaving you lighter and more at peace with every passing moment. The warmth now moves into your hands and fingers, making them feel heavy and incredibly still against the sheets. This quiet room holds nothing but the sound of your own peaceful breathing and the soft texture of the fabric against your skin. Your arms are long and relaxed, sinking into the mattress as the muscles in your shoulders finally surrender their hold. Notice how the weight of your body is perfectly distributed, leaving you feeling entirely supported and safe in the dark. Your chest rises and falls with a gentle, mechanical precision that requires no effort at all. The air in the room is cool and still, creating a cocoon of comfort that wraps around you like a soft, invisible layer of peace. Deep within your neck and jaw, the last remnants of the day's speech and expression simply dissolve into the shadows. Your tongue rests heavily, and the small muscles around your eyes become smooth and untroubled. The forehead is clear, and the scalp feels light, as if every thought has been carefully placed on a shelf for the night. Every exhale takes you deeper into the mattress, pulling you toward a place of absolute and dreamless quiet. The room is a sanctuary, a private domain where the only clock is the steady beat of your own heart. You're drifting now, moving further away from the waking world and closer to the soft embrace of the night. This quiet room is the only reality that matters, a place where the weight of the blankets is the only force you feel. The blankets are heavy and warm, anchoring you to the present moment of absolute comfort. You are sinking, falling softly into a deep and restorative sleep that will last until the light returns. And now 101 wonders are resting with you. Sleep now. Good night.